Welcome back to the United Nations Climate Conference in Tianjin. Here's a quick rundown of the big stories today. Those of us in China woke up to see Tick Tick Tick's Great Climate Wall splashed across the front page of the China Daily, the main English language newspaper in this country. As you can see, it was under the headline, "Developed Countries Urged to Act." The message to delegates here would have been clear. Millions of people around the world are taking action. Now it's your turn. Inside the conference centre today, the big talking point is the need for a balanced package in Cancun. This has been called for by numerous delegations, but it probably means something different to all of them. Some are speaking of a balance between the various components of a future treaty, so for example adaptation, finance and forestry, whilst others might interpret it simply as a balance between the interests of developed countries and developing countries. Perhaps most usefully, the term highlights the lack of balance between the two main tracks of these talks. Just as the legally binding emissions reductions promised by rich countries as part of the Kyoto Protocol are being dismantled in one track, we're seeing the poor countries feel that they face increasing demands for rigorous monitoring and reporting of their own actions. And to add insult to injury, they don't feel they're getting sufficient finance to do this. For many developing countries, this is essentially a question of fairness. Today's also seen the first meeting here in China focused on REDD, which is a set of policies designed to prevent deforestation in developing countries. This is one of the areas of the talks where we're hoping to see some real progress before Cancun, so we'll be following it quite closely. A number of NGOs are concerned that social rights for indigenous people and also the preservation of natural forests aren't currently included in these negotiations. So we'll be getting you up to date with that towards the end of the week. Some good news perhaps to finish with. We often hear that the UN is slow, but it looks like the adaptation fund is starting to move forward. We've seen money issued to Senegal this week to help deal with some of the worst impacts on climate change. So this is another story where we're starting to see some progress here at the talks. I'll leave you with a little factoid to chew on. In 2009, the EU invested in $41 billion in clean energy. China invested $34.6 billion and the US invested just $18.6 billion. Tomorrow we hope to see some Chinese business leaders who will be telling us why they believe their investment in green technology is going to help them win the race to the future. As always, you'll be able to tune in and post your questions on oneclimate.net, so please do join us there. And on that note, I'll hand back to the studio in Hedgerley.